And that empathy is driven by the idea of future generations and our children and creating a better world in the future. And that is what has brought all of us here. For 2016, that was when I participated in my first COP in Marrakesh. And there were a few young people there from Africa. And over the next few years, what was being asked was, young people from Africa need to be at COP and they need to be present. And here we are in our glory, being leaders, some as negotiators, some leading some of the actions that are extremely incredible and are game-changing, such as the work that Gloria, who is from Ghana, has done, getting the COP presidency to introduce plant-based food at COP, something that has not happened before. This is the power of the youth movement. My name is Joshua Amponsem. I'm from Ghana. I'm not too young anymore, but I work with the youth movement, and my role is to support young people, providing funding, getting them access to spaces that they wouldn't typically have access to, and building the next generation of climate leaders. And through that work, I'm very, very proud of AFRIWOCC. AFRIWOCC has been convened by Her Excellency Haja Samira Baumia, who has brought different stakeholders together with the support of several others, but also significantly UNDP for this context that we had COP, to really create an avenue where we can have conversations around how do we support women, youth, and children to really not just be a group that we sympathize with, not to be a group where we clap for them, but to be a group that we can actually catalyze to drive change. So today, this is why we are here. We are here to really take the next journey, the next step. AFRIWOCC was held in August. We had the second one, a pre-COP activity in Ghana. And today we are at COP28. And I understand that through AFRIWOCC, we've mobilized 100 people to be able to come to COP. 100 young Africans to be able to come to COP. So I really want you to get this context right. And throughout the deliberations and the conversations, one thing I want you to keep in mind is we now know that young people can be equal stakeholders. So the one message that you need to keep in mind is how can you work with young people as agents of change, as a peer, with equal respect, equal value? Because the thing that frustrates me the most as someone who works with young people is the idea that their opinions are lesser than someone else because they are not experts, because they do not have some sort of degree or some sort of qualification or a professional job. But young people live, and they live within the experiences of the climate context. So whether it's the drought in Kenya, or the floods in Somalia, or hunger in some parts of Uganda and Madagascar, young people are waking up every day and they're experiencing this. And that experience is what is going to make young people brilliant leaders in solving this crisis. So this is the context for today. Keep that in mind. And at every step of the journey, think about how can I better work with young people, support them, catalyze them to really support you in your work to achieve the goals you want to achieve for your country, as a continent, and driving a future that is better, safer for young people. So thank you all for coming. We're going to start the event with a panel. And AFRIWOCC is being very innovative. You know, typically you go to an event, you get the opening remarks from high-level people. By the time the young people start talking, everyone is already tired. Today, we are not doing that. We want to go straight to starting our first panel. And this panel will bring together 3 speakers from across the continent. And the focus will be on education, capacity building, and advocacy. Now, why are we starting with these 3 issues? Young people cannot really become the leaders we want them to be if we do not educate them. So access to education is very important. The only reason why I've been able to be on this stage today is because I can speak English, I can understand the climate conversations, and there are many other people I've met who language is a barrier, who some technical terminologies is a barrier. So the access that we're able to give towards education is very important. Then capacity building. Education is one thing, but our ministries, our public offices, they work in a way that if they do not build our capacity, we cannot support them. So that is needed. And then advocacy, that is what we do best as young people. We hold the placards, We send the emails, we write the articles, we shout, we demand, we ask, we show up in the offices, social media with the hashtags. So that is something that is really important that we can really leverage on. So we want to hear from people who have really used this as a tool to really contribute to the climate dialogue. And I'm very happy to introduce the moderator for this session, who is someone who is multilingual, which is very good for us because Africa is catalyzed by few languages, primarily English, French, Portuguese in some cases, and he speaks these languages, so he's very keen moderating this conversation for us. So I'm very happy to call on my dear CDL to really come to the stage and join us as the moderator. And then I will call on our three panelists, Ruben from Zambia. Ruben, where are you? Please join us. And then I'll call Ibrahima. Ibrahima, brilliant. Please join us. And then Dembo, who is beautifully showing up with the colors of his country. So, Dembo, please join us. And between the three of them, they will have a very brilliant conversation around education capacity building and advocacy. Over to you, Sidi.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Ghana, for hosting African youth. This is not something new. As most of you, I was always thinking that like until 6 years ago, I think, I was thinking that the climate change is something like happening maybe to the Western country, the North, and we are safe because we have other priorities. We have like the prices of tomato, for example, for potato, for our rice, for everything, our education, our health. Until I get to interconnect that, it is actually our problem. It's the threat on us, mainly as Africans. And the kilo of tomatoes is rising because of the threat of climate change. Our health is really affected and hit by climate change. And it's all like a climate change issue, and we are the most vulnerable, we are the victims of it, and we are not doing so much about it. This is Dr. Sid Mokhtar Abdurrahman. I'm a medical doctor from Mauritania. I'm also a climate advocate, and most importantly, a youth delegate for COP28. I'm really glad to have you all, with all respect to all of you, especially our great host, Second Lady of Ghana, the Regional Director of UNDP in Africa, and everyone here. And I think that we are starting with like high-level keynotes because it's already youth speaking, so it's already a high-level like talks, talking about empowering youth in Africa for climate action. And I like it, it's in a present continuous because I see in the room a lot of empowered, already empowered people. And they are doing so much great work. I know like many of you, and I'm sure that I'm eager to know the rest of the story that I'm missing around Africa. We are talking about education. We are talking about advocacy and changing attitudes towards climate action in Africa. I'm really glad to have with me 3 African nationalities and 3 African leaders that they are already from the empowered youth that I already talked about. And they are doing so much work, and they are in the middle of it, and they're waiting for other people from all Africa to join us. I know that we have already a lot of empowered people. We need to have this dialogue between us to know where can we empathize, where we are not working well, and how can we do to work better, because we know that back home, we have a lot of people that are still not even familiar with the term of climate change and seeing it just like the trends that people are always like talking about, which is, I'm sure that no one here is making a mistake about. I'm really so sorry because we have to, it's from a hand like a diversity point that we are proud of. From the other hand, we have a limited time, and like the translation will take like most of our time. So I'll try to like do a brief of important points that was like mentioned in English or in French if the speaker is speaking in French. to just give some context of the audience. Bon, je pense que l'introduction c'est déjà avec vous. C'est ce que j'ai déjà dit en fait avant. Donc aujourd'hui on parle de j'ai mes collègues de Guinée et de Guinée-Bissau et aussi de la Zambie. Notre collègue de Guinée-Bissau a voulu parler un portugais même, mais mais on s'est limité à 2 langues en fait parce que ça va déjà prendre beaucoup de notre temps. I just mentioned that we have 3 nationalities speaking 3 different languages, like Zambia, English, and we have Guinea speaking French, and we have Guinea-Bissau speaking Portuguese, and even our guest from Guinea-Bissau asked it, and it's all rightful to speak Portuguese, but we just try to limit it to 2 languages to be able to make this conversation go on. Education, advocacy, and changing attitudes towards climate change. I'll start with my friend from Zambia. My friend of Zambia is doing like so much work on capacity building for youth exactly, and exactly from internally displaced youth in Zambia. Like, how can we that orient the young people and convince them to to identify the problems that they are having internally and work to have like solutions, like locally based solution, like coming from those youth for their own problems back home.
Okay, thank you so much, and greetings once again. So like it stated, my name is Ruben Sapeturu from Zambia, and I actually call myself to be a Pan-African human rights defender. And I'm actually working across climate justice, global goals for sustainable development, as well as issues to do with capacity building across different sections with young people. So getting back to your question, I think one thing that first of all I need to establish before I even respond to the question is the fact that there is this public narrative that actually continues to consider young people as future leaders. And in a number of forums, of course, we continue to actually pass that preamble to distort that, or probably just get rid of it, because it now makes young people to be passive recipients, waiting upon the current leaders to actually carry on, and they actually remove themselves from the circles of the conversation. So what we try to do also is to create that platform for them, first of all, to understand that the problems that they are facing, they are the ones that actually know the solutions. We cannot come from a different area, go to that place where they are found, and impose solutions on them. But we can actually facilitate that process. But in the process of facilitating that process, it's an issue of letting them understand that this cause, we're only facilitating, they're the owners of the problems that they're actually facing, then they are the ones who actually have the power to come up with that solution. And we facilitate that. So now, responding to your question now, we have done quite a lot of issues, a lot of activities responding to empowering young people. And specifically, I'll go to the, the vulnerable groups, whom we consider to be the internally displaced people who have been displaced due to the climate-induced disasters. So a disaster happens, and they get to be evacuated from their areas of settlement, and they have nowhere to stay. They are staying in specific areas which are designated either by the government or well-wishers or even other development partners that actually provide that. So in the context, we go there, create that platform where they can, where we do some sort of needs assessment. And then once we conduct the needs assessment, they tell us what the challenges they are going through. And then through the needs assessment, they also tell us what actually needs to be done, and not necessarily us thinking on their behalf of what needs to be done for them. And then we respond to that. So we respond in different ways. We respond in capacity building, we respond in skills development, but at the same time also lobbying for finance, because we do know that capacity building on its own is not sufficient enough. We need to give them the resources so that they actually get to come out of the consequences that they've actually faced due to climate change. And this is also the conversation that we are bringing at the COP, because no one can adapt to loss and damage. And if loss and damage has happened, we need to provide resources for people to actually come up with that umbrella. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. Donc, je vais essayer juste de merci. Donc, thank you very much. I will try just in 1 minute to like conclude. C'est déjà beaucoup. Bon, moi, je vais essayer juste de mentionner quelques points qu'il a déjà mentionnés. Il a parlé de lui-même. Il s'est présenté comme un défendeur des droits de l'homme en Afrique et surtout dans le contexte climatique. Dans le contexte de la justice climatique, parce que vous savez qu'on est le moins contributeur, mais on est au moins le plus touché. Il a parlé d'un point que je trouve très intéressant, qu'on parle toujours des jeunes en tant que des leaders de l'avenir ou bien de demain, alors que ça fait... Oh, our neighbors are speaking louder. Donc, on fait que les jeunes attendent toujours ce domaine-là. Ils attendent toujours que ce domaine pour venir, pour qu'ils peuvent faire quelque chose. Alors que c'est pas le contexte. Ils sont les leaders d'aujourd'hui parce que ce sont les actions qu'ils mènent aujourd'hui, qu'ils font aujourd'hui, qui comptent et qui vont construire le demain. Donc, on doit les faire. Ils ont les mains on, comme on dit, mais ils ont besoin aussi de les impliquer de plus. Il a parlé tout à fait de la question à propos des personnes. Bon, j'ai déjà mentionné, je ne sais pas si j'ai en fait traduit ça ou non. Et il travaille surtout sur le renforcement des capacités, sur les personnes qui sont intérieurement déplacées, si je peux dire. Donc, il parlait qu'ils font en premier lieu, ils font des évaluations des besoins dans ce contexte-là. Et dans cette évaluation de besoins, ce n'est pas eux qui le font, mais qu'ils ont ces jeunes-là, qui sont déjà des jeunes déplacés intérieurement par les effets de changement climatique. Et puis, ils font des consultations à propos des solutions, des solutions potentielles des problèmes de ces gens. En parallèle, il disait qu'il travaille aussi sur le lobbying pour le financement climatique parce qu'il pense toujours que ce n'est pas suffisant de renforcer les capacités s'il n'y a pas en fait un financement qui va offrir à ces jeunes-là un financement où ils peuvent faire face, où ils peuvent financer les solutions qui ont déjà. Donc, merci, thank you very much. I will now move to our second guest from Guinea-Bissau. Our friend from Guinea-Bissau is like working from a different aspect. And as I told you, like climate change is no longer just a trend or like a banner to take a picture with. It's a real threat that is already, we no longer even need evidence or reports. We are seeing in our homelands like every day's like events happening, like displacing people, killing even people, or affecting severely their life. So to understand the climate change, we need to understand the intersectionality of the climate change. We need to understand the climate change effect on health. We need to understand the energy transition. We need to understand the food security component. We need to understand the policy component. We need to understand the economic development sector, the finance sector. We need to understand it as a whole to be able to have this, I can say to understand the whole of climate change and to be able to take that into consideration while working to solutions. Our friend is working in circular economy, empowering younger generation in that economic aspect. So my question is, how do you see, what's African youth are lacking to be able to be on the table? Je vais traduire ça. It's just a question just to say the question in English and then I will be back to in French. What's the African youth is lacking to be able to be on the table? Is it just like that our seniors are just closing the doors on African youth, or we actually still need to work more on our skills to be able to be there on the table, like from economic aspect? So, ma question c'est, bon, vous avez fait un beau travail sur l'économie circulaire, sur l'entrepreneuriat et voilà, impliquer les gens dans ces domaines. Ma question est la suivante. Qu'est-ce qu'on a manque en fait en tant que jeune Africain pour être là sur la table? Est-ce que c'est nos compétences qui sont le problème, ou bien est-ce que c'est toujours les portes fermées, l'envers de nos seniors peut-être qui sont déjà un pouvoir? Que pensez-vous?
Bonjour, merci pour l'opportunité. Comme elle a dit, je suis Dembomane de Guinée-Bissau. Je suis membre de Youth Sounding Board de PNUD de Guinée-Bissau. Je suis militant écologique. Je suis fondateur d'un projet de la pisciculture qui travaille avec l'élevage, transformation et commercialisation du poisson tilapia, nos produits à base de bio. Quand on parle d'économie circulaire, c'est une question très, très importante. Pourquoi? Parce que mon pays, nous passons de beaucoup de difficultés avec les poissons de qualité. La ville de Bambadinka, il ne mange pas poisson de qualité, riche en protéines. Il n'y a pas d'opportunité de poisson. Il mange un poisson congelé. Et nous, comme sommes jeunes, beaucoup d'expérience, beaucoup de connaissances, nous faisons notre projet pour donner l'opportunité à cette zone, à cette famille de la zone vulnérable. L'autre question, c'est difficultés de financement. Comme vous avez connu notre pays, la Guinée-Bissau, notre développement avec le développement de Ghana, c'est très difficile. C'était différent. Notre développement avec le développement de Sénégal, c'est très différent parce que nous connaissons toujours les difficultés, l'instabilité politique. C'est les questions qui conditionnent notre travail. Il y a difficulté d'opportunités pour les gens qui travaillent avec le changement climatique, avec l'économie circulaire. Nous qui faisons le travail de pisciculture, c'est beaucoup de travail. Nous participons à le concours international de PNUD, nous gagnons l'opportunité, nous partons au Songhai, fait trainement, au retour dans notre pays, nous commençons notre travail pour l'opportunité, pour la réduction de pauvreté à notre continent, à notre communauté. C'est très difficile de travailler avec l'économie circulaire. Mais pour nous dire que l'Afrique de l'Ouest, la pauvreté, l'insécurité alimentaire, nous devons travailler avec l'agronégoce comme les solutions par rapport à la pauvreté, à l'insécurité alimentaire. Mais il n'y a pas d'opportunité, il n'y a pas de l'argent pour les jeunes qui travaillent avec ça. C'est très compliqué. Nous qui sommes militants écologiques, sommes entrepreneuriat, c'est très compliqué parce que nous travaillons avec l'éducation, l'information, les conscientisations de population, avec l'impact négatif des changements climatiques. Les politiques, nous regardons comme l'obstacle de développement. Nous allons faire notre projet d'entrepreneuriat par rapport à cette difficulté que la communauté va passer. Merci.
That's too much to translate, but I'll try my skills. So he introduced, thank you very much. He introduced himself as an ecological, like a climate activist. And he said that he's working on fishing, like from a local aspect. That's his project of entrepreneurial. And he was talking about the problems, like either from like having local support for what they are doing, and also the finance, because like youth, from his perspective, might have a lot of projects, but it's conditioned by the available finance, which is not always like directed to like the youth priorities. He mentioned a very important point from my perspective, that we need to understand those, like he gave an example for circular economy. We need to understand those thematics from a local aspect or local context, which is our own in Africa. He mentioned also the last point that it is really complicated to work technically on just one point or one thematic on climate change, because you'll find yourself like in need or even in an urge to go through all the way to work on all aspects of climate change to gather people around you and to be able to do something. Thank you very much, my friend. And like you said a lot of interesting things, but that what I was able to take notes for. So, maintenant, nous avons notre ami de la Guinée. Donc, lui aussi, il travaille sur l'advocacy, mais plutôt sur le plaidoyer, mais plutôt sur l'éducation. Comment voyez-vous l'éducation comme garantie, si on peut dire, pour un avenir meilleur? Nous, on parle toujours de... Bon, c'est à travers l'éducation qu'on a accès, donc si on peut dire, à tout le monde, en fait, parce que tout le monde va à l'école. C'est là où on peut s'aimer, si on peut dire, les idées qu'on peut, ou bien s'aimer l'image de l'avenir que nous aspirons vivre en 2000, par exemple, 63, comme c'est l'agenda de l'Union africaine. So my question was that he's mainly working, our friend from Guinea. When we say Guinea, it's always Guinea, known Conakry, but this is just the capital. So he's working in education and advocacy. My question was like, it is always through education that we can like empower younger generation, children with the ideas, the future, like the picture of the future that you want to live in. I gave an example for 2063 as it is the African Youth Agenda, Africa We Want. Like, how can education be that guarantee to like a more sustainable future for people in Africa?
Merci, monsieur le modérateur, et bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Mon nom, c'est Yula Ibrahima Souri, je suis de la Guinée, comme il a dit. Je suis un jeune champion du PNUD. Et je pense que la question, elle nous concerne tous. Aujourd'hui, les jeunes, ils sont perçus comme des acteurs bénéficiaires des projets et non des acteurs de mise en œuvre. Et nous, et c'est cette perception que nous voulons changer. Nous voulons non seulement faire des jeunes, nous voulons créer pour eux des passerelles entre eux et les politiques, c'est-à-dire nous les capacitons pour qu'ils puissent avoir les aptitudes, les capacités à dialoguer, à tenir des discours, mais aussi à défendre leurs droits. Le droit d'être intégré dans tout ce qui est politique, tout ce qui est stratégie. Et sur la question, de façon très pratique, je pense globalement, il nous a été enseigné à l'école que la base du développement, c'est l'éducation. Donc, il reste de même dans tous les processus. Aujourd'hui, on parle du changement climatique. On peine aujourd'hui avec des projets et à créer un ancrage au niveau communautaire parce que tout simplement, il y a une réticence des communautés qui émane d'où? De la méconnaissance d'une forme d'inconscience sur ce qui est le changement climatique. Et pour pallier ce problème, il faut investir sur un potentiel existant qui est non valorisé, que nous sommes les jeunes. Nous avons le pouvoir. Quand je dis le pouvoir, c'est-à-dire de faire changer les choses, c'est les mêmes jeunes qui sortent dans les rues pour demander leurs droits. C'est les mêmes jeunes qui sont utilisés par les politiques pour instaurer certains climats comme on dit, de la démocratie et tout. Et nous, dans l'aspect climatique, on se dit ce pouvoir, il faut qu'on arrive à jouer avec. Ça, c'est un premier point. Et deuxièmement, il faut comprendre que le jeune, aujourd'hui, a accès à l'innovation, à la technologie. Et vous allez rencontrer souvent des gens qui ont tendance à nous faire lire aujourd'hui de la littérature climatique, mais un jeune qui est porteur de capacités physiques et intellectuelles peut vous permettre d'avoir des solutions tellement adaptées à nos besoins qu'il serait question d'investir en lui. Donc, la question qu'on devrait se poser, est-il normal ou important d'investir aujourd'hui dans les jeunes pour créer demain des ambassadeurs, pour créer demain des vrais politiques, pouvoir inverser la tendance? On peine aujourd'hui à renforcer les discussions au niveau, au fait, dans les sessions de négociation parce que nous sommes avec des gens qui, je ne dirais pas qui ignorent les réalités, mais qui pensent que le problème de demain ne les concerne pas. Mais nous, ça nous concerne. Donc, discuter des questions climatiques sans nous pouvoir impliquer de façon très pragmatique comme des vrais acteurs serait d'investir dans un projet dont le résultat reste volatilisé et non facile à capturer. C'est pourquoi il est nécessaire de permettre aux jeunes d'avoir accès à l'information. Et nous le faisons comment? Nous organisons chaque année avec le PNUD une activité qu'on appelle le camp climat. Ce camp, comme vous l'entendez, le camp, c'est un espace bâti sur la convivialité où nous invitons des expertises externes, mais aussi endogènes, pour pouvoir échanger avec des jeunes, leur donner des outils nécessaires, inviter les politiques, leur donner la main pour qu'ils puissent comprendre quels sont les enjeux auxquels, au fait, ils font face. Donc c'est sur ça que nous travaillons. Et cela nous a permis aujourd'hui de faire de certains jeunes des vrais leaders. Je ne sais pas si vous avez entendu parler de ce projet de selfie déchet à un moment. Une jeune Guinéenne qui a un jour lancé une initiative, mais qui a permis à d'autres pays d'emboîter les pas. Ça, c'est une initiative qui vient d'une jeune ambassadrice que nous avons eu la capacité à un moment donné. Nous avons eu la capacité des jeunes qui ont eu le courage d'investir de façon technique, mais aussi très avertie sur la valorisation des ressources naturelles. Et il y a des jeunes qui travaillent sur le café, qui travaillent sur le moringa, qui travaillent même sur le développement des pesticides, mais bio, pour pouvoir permettre à ce que nos mamans, nos parents qui utilisent des produits chimiques, à pouvoir remplacer par ces technologies et qui sont déjà perçus par des centres de recherche comme étant une bonne approche pour pallier tout ce qui est problème lié à l'inspection de certaines espèces dans le cadre de la conservation de la biodiversité. Donc, en gros, c'est ça notre travail. L'advocacy, on saisit des opportunités comme vous l'avez fait pour pouvoir lancer des alertes et faire comprendre que les jeunes ne doivent plus être des acteurs bénéficiaires des projets, mais des acteurs de mise en œuvre et dans toutes les dimensions. Donc, c'est ce que j'avais à vous partager et j'espère que j'en ai fait aussi un plaidoyer. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. I really enjoyed listening to you, but I really struggled also to take notes and try to say, to be transparent and say what you exactly said in English. So I talked about the perception of youth that they should not be stay just beneficiaries of the projects that targets youth or even technical projects, but they need to be the ones who are in leading positions of those projects and the one who identified the priorities of those projects. He said that the backbone of development is always education, and this is only the guarantee that we have to be able to design the future that we want. He talked that youth already have power, but they need to use that power in the right way to make change, and to. He also added a point on adapting the needs. Adapting the climate needs on our context. Okay, I mentioned also that we youth needs knowledge, access to information, access to knowledge, where they can build capacity themselves to be able to be good leaders for the. He said also that a very interesting point also about that youth, empowering youth in this moment is showing the younger generation with the children or giving them a shot about the future that is waiting for them. So meaningful youth empowerment and meaningful youth engagement in the climate process and the climate negotiations, not just talking about youth when it is side events or it is youth events, but in the closed doors, many of youth I met in this COP, some of them have even the pink card of party overflow, but they also found doors closed to them by instructions of their delegation, of their head of delegation, that you are not allowed to enter here, you are not allowed to be here, because this is more serious negotiations. Until we can work together prior to COP or even involve youth in the work there back home, then they are aware of the context they're coming from, and they always have another context, another perspective, which is their own. Just in 1 minute, just a last word. Once you say you are already in the COP, you have youth also in the COP. What can African youth do more or better to have a more sustainable Africa and to achieve the Africa we want in the context of the climate threat?
Okay, thank you so much. Wow, okay. The thing is, I don't know if I can actually be allowed, but the thing is, I wanted to take advantage of the leaders who are here, just to send one thing, if you can allow me. Can I ask for that? Maybe from the audience, can I? Okay. So the thing is, the aspect of putting young people on the table should not even be negotiated. The reason why I'm stating so is because when we review international law, it is the obligation of the states under the international principles, the human rights principles actually, to allow young people to participate and be on the negotiating table. So when we are saying that young people should be on the table, it's not like we want politicians or leaders to go and sound politically right with those words on the panel, but it's their mandate and obligation established under that. So now, having established that, young people, of course, we need to create a favorable environment. Young people, on the other hand, have got a role to play, but governments, on the other hand, have got a role to also ensure that the environment is favorable enough for young people to penetrate these spaces. I can testify. Of course, this is my ID, and I'm co-chairing the African Group of Negotiators, sitting next to the chair for the African Group of Negotiators. That was facilitated for. I didn't just probably go through and say that, please, I need to be on the chair. No. It was facilitated for. But if I pushed on my own, I would have found it hard. You get, right? So how are the nations, how are the governments being politically, deliberate or having that political will to facilitate the engagement of young people to find themselves at the negotiating table? Because the issues they are facing, they're the ones who have got the solutions. You get, right? So maybe because of the time, allow me just to hint here. Thank you.
Je vais juste, passer la question en français. Donc, qu'est-ce que nous manquons en fait en tant que jeunes Africains? Vous êtes déjà à la COP et il y a plein de jeunes ici qui sont à la COP. Qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire de plus ou de mieux pour avoir un avenir plus durable pour les Africains, mené par leurs jeunes Africains? Juste 30 secondes.
Merci. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? On va donner l'opportunité de les jeunes participer à la négociation. Comme moi, notre pays, nous sommes 2 jeunes qui vont participer ici, mais nous n'avons pas d'opportunité de parler pour la négociation. Nous sommes qu'aujourd'hui, c'est les conférences de parties. Nous n'avons pas d'opportunité parce que notre président, il a retourné au pays, les pommes focaux de UNFCC, il a retourné à notre pays. Même aujourd'hui que je vais parler ça, dans notre pays, les gouvernements, les parlements, c'est dérobé. Je suis ici, mais je ne suis pas content pour les situations que notre pays va passer aujourd'hui. Je n'ai pas d'opportunité par rapport à la besoin des jeunes de mon pays. Mais je pense que l'autre pays qui a d'opportunités pour les jeunes, on va donner les jeunes l'opportunité de participer à la négociation pour qu'aujourd'hui, en Afrique, il y a beaucoup de jeunes très, très compétents. Il y a beaucoup de jeunes très, très créatifs qui, s'il y a opportunité, on va relever la tête d'Afrique. Merci.
No, it's okay. Merci, merci beaucoup. Merci moi. Je pense que je vais être bref, comme vous l'avez dit. Comme vient de préciser les amis, moi, la chose que je voudrais ajouter, il faudrait juste comprendre que nous avons une très grande chance. Avant, je me suis renseigné, mais les jeunes n'avaient pas cette opportunité pendant la COP. On n'était pas perçus comme étant des acteurs associés. Aujourd'hui, nous avons des plateformes comme Yungo. Il y a plein de structures, des plateformes qui se créent, qui arrivent au moins à faire passer des messages. Un exemple très clair. Il y a notre point focal NDC ici dans la salle. Nous, en 2000, à la COP de Madrid, je donne un exemple très simple. À la COP de Madrid, nous avons eu à faire une consultation avant la COP avec Yungo, qui a prouvé que certains acteurs n'ont pas été pris en compte comme étant des vrais acteurs de mise en œuvre. Après la consultation, le rapport a été déposé auprès des partenaires. Certains, comme le PNUD, se sont saisis et ont compris qu'il était nécessaire de prendre en compte les jeunes. Il y a eu un appel à projet qui a été lancé par le gouvernement de la Belgique, qui s'est manifesté, c'est ce que nous aimons, pour dire que nous avons un appel à candidature pour les jeunes, pour les pays, afin de voir comment intégrer les jeunes dans la mise en œuvre de la CIDN. Et ce qui fut fait, nous, on avait appliqué et nous avons été pris en compte. Ça nous a permis aujourd'hui de bénéficier d'un montant de $102,000 pour pouvoir faire des consultations avec des jeunes afin que leurs préoccupations soient prises en compte. Et voici vraiment un exemple. Je dis merci à notre point focal parce que nous avons emboîté ses pas et disons merci à nos décideurs parce qu'ils nous offrent quand même un podium de dialogue. Merci aussi à AFRIWOCC.
Okay, so I think we I can't translate all of it, of course, but we are all agreed on that education is like the starting point and the only guarantee that we can, through it, trigger climate action. We need advocacy to convince more peers to join this climate action in the African context. I just have to comment like in 30 seconds on a point like mentioned by my colleague that he said that we are lucky to be here because like prior to this, these opportunities weren't like available for youth. I think that we, maybe we're lucky, but we have worked on this, and our senior youth also, like, people have worked on this, because after you mentioned Yongo, last year was the first year that, like, young people had like a pavilion in the blue zone. We were always like doing our activities, dancing and protesting and doing everything like in the green zone. Yes, last year we penetrated the blue zone and we are here. Maybe like in the COP 30 or the COP 29, we'll be having like more young people in the negotiation tables, and we'll go like farther. So this is just like some minutes, and we can like talk more. We have all the COP. Let's like have this sense of synergy and cooperation, at least as African youth, and then we can like better work for our Africa. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
my
And
panelists.
please stay for a quick group photo. And yeah, we continue quickly, but please stand up and yeah, okay. Brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to mention that we want this to be more inclusive and to give the floor also to you, but this is the time. Sorry,
I'm
really sorry.
policing you. I'm policing you. Thank you so much. I mean, that was an excellent panel. So give it to them again. I think when Rubin finally becomes the head of delegation for Zambia, he will be a very hardcore negotiator. The way the guy was speaking on the panel, I was like, okay, he's in the right training. So that was really fantastic. One of the things that the previous panel talked about was that we cannot really negotiate the opportunities for young people. I think it is something that is part of our basic rights and something that really has to be given to us as well. And we need to create a condition for that. When you look at the African continent, it is catalyzed by entrepreneurship. Every young person is doing something in addition to something. We always have the side gigs, whether it is a farm or whether it's setting up a small shop or trading something somewhere. We are really driven as a continent by entrepreneurs and smallholder entrepreneurs. So SMEs, we're looking at the informal sector. So our next panel will focus on innovation and solutions. I work on an initiative called the Youth Climate Justice Fund, which is a global initiative. And we launched the fund in September this year. We opened our call to application. We had 1,800 people applying for funding. 70% of that were young people from Africa, asking for funding to set up different enterprises, different solutions across the continent. So the need to really catalyze resources for funding is for solutions is super critical. So in the next panel, we are going to have people who have really worked in this field and understand what does it take to pioneer climate solutions and what are the successful case studies that are there. So I'm very happy to invite Jermaine from Rwanda to join us for this panel, and also inviting Rolene from DRC, inviting Gloria from Ghana, of course, inviting Emmanuel from Sierra Leone, as well as Safia too from Burkina Faso. And in the previous panel, you know one thing I observed, how many of the people here are bilingual in the audience? Exactly. So you could tell that people were really there waiting for the translation to happen. And I really urge all of us to really diversify our language, but also really recognize that inclusion, it takes time to do inclusive projects. So really being able to have both French-speaking and English-speaking people on the panel is very instrumental. So I'm going to pass it on to the next panel to take us through innovation, solution, and entrepreneurship. And afterwards, Daniel will take over to introduce the third segment of the panel and then the high-level segment. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Wonderful. Good evening to you all. Welcome to our panel that is going to focus on climate innovations, solutions, and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the realm of climate startups. So now we have different panelists as they have been introduced by that people. Now the question that is going to the one of Safiatou, who is an energy and environmental engineer, climate activist, and young national delegate negotiator from Burkina Faso. So, from the work of your experience, how young innovators ensure that their climate solutions are not only effective, but they are also culturally relevant?
Hello everyone. I'm Awe Safiatou from Burkina Faso, energy engineer, as she said. We know that the impact of climate change is not the same everywhere. And when we take, in Burkina Faso, for example, the communities are not affected the same as in Ghana, for example. So when we have to design a solution to address climate impact. Sorry, I will speak in French. Ok. Comme je le disais, je suis ingénieure en énergie, jeune déléguée du Burkina, du programme national jeune délégué. Et nous le savons tous, les impacts du changement climatique ne sont pas les mêmes lorsque nous prenons d'une communauté à une autre. Même dans la même communauté, les gens ne sont pas affectés de la même manière. Lorsque nous prenons les femmes, les enfants et les hommes, ils ne vivent pas de la même manière les impacts du changement climatique. Alors, pour pouvoir concevoir un projet qui sera vraiment pertinent, il est vraiment important de définir les objectifs en fait du projet. Il est important de savoir l'impact que nous voulons avoir du projet. Du coup, c'est la résilience de qui? Il est important de savoir qui est-ce qu'on veut rendre plus résilient aux impacts du changement climatique. Si ça va à l'endroit des femmes, à l'endroit des enfants, et également en fonction de la localité, les réalités ne sont pas les mêmes. Du coup, il est vraiment important pour ce porteur de projet ou cet entrepreneur de prendre en considération la communauté auquel cette solution sera adressée. Ça, c'est la première des choses à faire. Ensuite, il faut impliquer cette communauté dans la conception de la solution, en fait. Sinon, nous risquons de nous asseoir, réfléchir sur un projet qui ne va pas correspondre aux attentes de notre cible et du coup, la solution ne sera pas utilisée. Voilà, donc c'est ce que je voulais apporter comme réponse à cette question. Merci.
I'm really so sorry. I came late, so I wasn't like following. But I catch it from where that people are not faced in the same manner, like children, youth, and like people in rural areas are not like others. We need to define the objectives that we want to achieve, give those people the right to to conceptualize the way or the solution that they want to build their resilience in a way that is fitting their context, their local context. And because otherwise it's not gonna fit them and we'll be wasting time and resources like trying solutions which not working. So simply we need to give them the right to choose that. Is that what you said? Really?
Thank you very much. Now the takeaway is that climate solutions, which are innovative, should always fit the context. Now we are going to the young entrepreneurs who are in climate space. Emmanuel, from your experience, what the key skills and qualities are essential for young entrepreneurs like you in climate action space and how they can be cultivated? First, introduce yourself in the realms of innovation in climate.
Thank you very much. I'm here, Emmanuel Bori from Sierra Leone, West Africa. And first of all, when it comes in convo, young people in climate change and the skills that we can cultivate, it become a tears in my heart as we as young people. And you'll be surprised to know that Africa has the youngest population in the world, the youthful population in the world. And Africa has the highest unemployment of young people in the world. What is wrong? There is something missing somewhere. So as young people, we need to cultivate the entrepreneurship skill in Africa because the African today is the bread of the world. That is the African today we have. The world is moving to a trend of entrepreneurship. A 3-4 multi-millionaire in the Western world can triple down the whole of African riches or the whole of African budget. Why? Because we have not been focusing on entrepreneurship. We have not been focusing on innovations. So what are the critical skills that young entrepreneurs and innovators can tap into? One, you need to know your community solution. What are the problems affecting your community? Because you can't solve a problem that you are not within the problem. You have to be of faith. And two, you have to be it takes things acceptable culturally, because there are cultural narratives within our societies that can accept our innovative ideas. You can bring in innovative ideas that are cost-effective. What I mean by cost-effective, putting us on innovative entrepreneurship in climate change, it becomes cost-effective because we are using local material, local resources to build our solutions. And our government do not create this platform. The other country bring in cheaper solutions to our community. So we prefer going for the cheaper solution rather than building our own resources that we catalyst to transform our own society. Because if you live in the problem and you solve and you create a solution within the problem, it becomes the best solution. But borrow solutions create problem for us in Africa. So let's first of all encourage our young entrepreneurs to map out the solutions and let's market them so that it becomes a sustainable solutions, because the world is moving to a sustainable local economy. What are the next thing again is government support. As young people, first of all, let's build our integrity. Africa is our property. Nobody like it than we. We can't leave it for anywhere. I normally say this in my speech. I say, nobody steal from his pocket and put it to another pocket, except he steal from another man's pocket and put it to his own pocket. Is Africa our pocket? Why are we taking away the younger resources, the younger generations to the way? You know, it become a cry to me when a young entrepreneurship come out and started doing something. Say, oh, want to send it to Belgium, want to send it to UK to go and study. He started solving the solution here. The problem is here. Let's bring the resources closer to the younger generation so that we can solve the solutions within Africa, within our region. But if you take us to the European world, what become a challenge? You know what? The sooner we eyes open to the European world and we see the resources there, we started building their own home rather than building the solution. So why can't we bring the opportunity to the doorstep of the African youth so that we solve the problem within where the problem is found rather than taking the solutions where the problem is not. That has affected us. So as leaders, as young entrepreneurs, let's see the opportunities within the problems and let us see the opportunity outside the problems. It becomes a near narrative to us. Nobody will write our history rather than our very self. Let's rewrite our own history. It takes a time, but we'll get there. I solely believe in that. It will take a time because if you Google to the world, they will sell you one of the richest entrepreneurs in Africa. They will show you Dangote. If you check now to the world, it's not even among the world 100 richest entrepreneurs. Why? There is something lost. We Last year alone, Africa imported 16.6 million metric tons of rice. We have 1,119,000,000 hectares of land available in Africa. Only 40% is cultivated. There is a missing opportunity. We need to look within as entrepreneurs, young people in Africa. Let's look within the opportunities. The opportunity is not there. They have already built their own home. Let's build our home. The future is now. That is what I need to tell African young people as an entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. Dear young entrepreneurs, have integrity, be responsible, grab the opportunity, and bring solutions home. So, from the part of being integrity, Rorian from Democratic Republic of Congo, what are the challenges? What are the challenges do climate startups face? From perspective of being integrity, what are the challenges do climate startups face in gaining public trust or acceptance, and how can these challenges be navigated effectively, especially to young innovators in climate space?
Okay, I'm not sure if I get the question exactly, but again, can you put it again?
The challenges that climate startups face in gaining public trust or acceptance, and how these challenges can be navigated effectively.
Ok, donc dans perspective d'intégrité en fait, et quels sont les défis ou bien les challenges qu'on fait face à convaincre un public pour nous joindre dans le combat de changement climatique? Je pense bien que... Est-ce que vous avez compris la question? C'est comme ça.
Je vais essayer de répondre si je comprends bien la question. C'est dans le contexte de changement climatique, quels sont
les défis,
les
challenges dans perspective de jeunesse.
Ok. Ouais. Voilà. Je suis Rolienne Kaïba de la République démocratique du Congo. Je suis coordonnatrice nationale de Green Space Network. C'est une organisation qui œuvre pour la promotion des énergies renouvelables, mais également nous mettons en œuvre de projets de la lutte contre la déforestation ainsi la gestion des écosystèmes forestiers. Alors, je suis francophone, comprenez pourquoi je demandais la traduction. Je veux plus partager l'expérience que nous avons en tant qu'organisation qui œuvre dans le secteur. Et le plus grand défi c'est d'abord être jeune qui travaille dans un milieu où on a des pionniers qui sont dans le secteur, qui travaillent depuis plus longtemps et qui nous laissent presque pas l'espace de pouvoir nous exprimer et de pouvoir mettre en œuvre ce que nous avons l'habitude de faire et ce que nous connaissons. Alors, nous travaillons plus dans le milieu périurbain. Et c'est là où provient plus la déforestation et c'est là où la population, les autochtones font plus le déboisement pour livrer à ce qui se considère comme le genre de bonne manière, de gens qui cuisinent propre et qui sont dans de bonnes conditions. Alors, nous mettons en œuvre des projets où ça demande l'implication de tout le monde, l'implication du gouvernement, mais aussi l'espace pour pouvoir nous libérer, avancer pour aller de l'avant, pour pouvoir bien avancer. Alors, je n'ai pas tellement bien capté la question pour pouvoir mieux répondre.
C'est toujours dans ça, je pense. Vous êtes dans le sens, en fait. C'est juste les challenges des jeunes. Vous avez déjà mentionné quelques challenges, je pense. Mais vous pouvez ajouter si vous avez quelque chose à ajouter. Ouais.
OK. Alors, l'expérience que nous partageons, c'est que la population de milieu périurbain qui se retrouve surtout dans des réserves, dans le domaine et la réserve des chasses de quelques coins de la ville de Kinshasa, et se retrouvent plus en train de couper le bois pour subvenir à leurs besoins en termes de bois énergie, en termes de bois de chauffe pour pouvoir pallier à leurs problèmes culinaires. Alors, nous avons apporté une solution qui peut être reproduite au niveau des autres pays, qui n'est rien d'autre que la production du biogaz qui est produit à base de déchets biodégradables qu'on utilise souvent à la maison. Alors, ces projets est accompagné par des structures privées, mais nous avons aussi besoin de notre gouvernement, que le gouvernement accompagne le jeune, que le gouvernement crée des plateformes pour pouvoir financer le projet des jeunes, afin de pouvoir agrandir cela, que cela puisse se reproduire au niveau régional, pas seulement dans la ville capitale, mais aussi dans d'autres provinces, et aussi ces solutions puissent être vendues. Quand je parle de la vente, je parle en termes de l'entrepreneuriat. L'entrepreneuriat, en fait, ce que nous faisons, c'est aider les communautés, bien sûr, mais nous voulons commercialiser ces projets-là pour pouvoir autonomiser surtout les femmes qui subissent plus comment je dirais, qui subissent plus de difficultés en termes de récolte de bois, en termes de cuisson. Ce sont eux qui rencontrent plus de problèmes de climat, en fait, de problèmes liés au changement climatique. Ce sont eux les premières victimes. Alors, c'est comme ça que nous nécessitons de faire appel et interpeller aussi les autorités, mais aussi le partenaire à pouvoir élargir leurs horizons. Et souvent, le problème qu'on se retrouve plus avec, c'est que le partenaire vient déjà avec leurs objectifs. Ils savent que nous voulons financer pour tel projet, mais ils oublient que le contexte aussi joue. Le contexte a un grand rôle à jouer dans la réalisation, bien dans le résultat à atteindre à la fin du projet. Alors, il faut essayer de voir aussi comment, en tant que partenaires qui sont présents dans la salle, comment ils peuvent changer leur contexte au dépend de ce qui se retrouve sur terrain, ce qu'ils retrouvent sur terrain. Voilà.
Okay, that's a lot to me. Like she started by saying that she's a youth from like a space where people or young people are lacking opportunity because of other seniors that are always occupying like the available opportunities, and they are always there without advancing like really the work. That people like we always like talk or play on feelings of people, like saying that like our African mothers should stop cooking on like charcoal and stuff. But we have to think about like the context of those people, that these people are not like cooking on charcoal like to like just have fun or something. This is essential needs that people are having. So we need to think about the alternative actually, and to understand the context that we are coming from. She said that the government needs to understand the youth, to support youth, and to create platforms where youth can contribute to their ideas and to finance youth projects. And she talked about a very interesting point about like the local mindset of startups or entrepreneurship that we need, not just to like have maybe this is an example for me, but this is how I understand her point of view, that we don't always to have like that mobile app providing this. We need to like, this entrepreneurship needs also to satisfy the real needs of people, and we need to think about that and make those projects like to like get people to make money from those green projects, or from those, to really understand that this is a real alternative and not just like we are working on your feelings. We should all cry on the like planets that is like going, and we need to change our lives because people have their needs also. Youth need to expand their limits. And a last point about the partners and the funders, that they came always with their agenda, even the organizations and the funders, they came with their agenda and the pre-defined objectives, and they came to just put it on the table, and we need to achieve this and this and this, forgetting the local context, and which is not always the we need to reshape the project cycle and try to start it from the last and try to understand first the needs and then build the project on that. Is that what that was your points, I guess?
Yeah, thank you very much from that perspectives. And now, well, from your opinions and perspective, what are the barriers young innovators face in scaling up their climate solution? And what do you think are the strategies that can be employed to overcome all these challenges? Some of them she mentioned. So this is in the context of pioneering the climate solution, innovation, and technologies in the context of climate change.
All right, thank you very much, Jermaine. My name is Gloria Ijare, and I work within the environmental space as Programs Officer for Ghana Youth Environmental Movement. And I'm also a sustainable agri-food system advocate. So I'll speak from the agric angle and then come in with other areas. Thank you. I think that for a young woman within the agric space, especially with focus on how agriculture affects the environment, one of the things I've really seen within this space over the past 2 to 3 years, is lack of mentorship. That has been very, very important to me because as a young woman coming out from school, coming into the environmental space, and then trying to explore how the environment affects agriculture, how agriculture affects the environment, I realized that I couldn't find even someone within the Ghanaian context, even within Ghana, that can help me when it comes to agriculture. You know, even though we have so many people championing it, you don't even find them. It's very difficult to access some of these people. So these are one of the significant challenges I saw, and then I took it up for myself that in the nearest future, I want to see myself being a mentor to a young woman who is within the agri space. So these are some of the challenges, and I feel there's a need for us to establish programs within sectors like these, environment and agriculture. These are critical sectors that holds our life, that holds our future. Look at food. Can you live, Jermaine, without food? You definitely cannot live a day without food. Maybe you may go a day for fasting purposes, but you can't last a week without food. And these are essential areas where we have to really focus on in getting people within the sectors to build the younger generation to take over. An example, if you have a farmer, the average farmer we have in Ghana is like 57 years old or 60 years old. Say this farmer didn't train his or a child to take after him. If this farmer dies, what happens to his 1 acre land? I guess it will turn into a tall building that will be given out for rent and all of that. Who is going to produce food for us to eat? So I see it as a need for us to have mentors within the agri space, mentors within the climate space as well, to guide the young people to take over. I believe that that is how we can create sustainable solutions, because they say charity begins at home. At home, when you pick up certain behaviors from home, you run with it all the days of your life. And the other generations also tend to learn from you. So that's one thing I'll also emphasize on. Another thing, too, that I realize is inexperience and network, which is obviously okay because we are young people. We haven't been here on earth for long. We haven't experienced so many things. So these are some of the gaps that I identified. Then how then do we bridge this gap? We need a lot of capacity building. I've always gone with the notion that there's no way you build your capacity and you can't do anything. Capacity building is very, very essential. So earlier this year, I started an agroforestry project in the eastern region of Kunyako. Before I embarked on the project, the founder of my organization entrusted me to start this project. He guided me to visit other agroforestry projects within Ghana. So I visited about 4 lands just to learn how these people are doing or are practicing agroforestry. Agroforestry is basically working with nature to ensure that your way of producing food doesn't affect the environment. We know that Food and Agriculture Organization is saying that 1/3 of emission comes from the way we produce food, our modern way of producing food. We've also identified a problem with the use of fertilizers, these improved seeds. Our mothers can see in the kitchen, when you open it or when you split a tomato open, you can see that you don't have anything in there. It's just red on the outside and yellow on the inside. All of these things are challenges we are seeing now, not only because of climate change, but how we produce food. So I'm saying that we need a lot of capacity building. How are we going to train and nurture our young people to even learn how to grow food at a small place, backyard farming? It's not difficult. Let your child start doing it. It should be like a hobby, you know, as means to also bridge the gap, because we don't have a lot of people within the space. One last thing I also emphasize on is visibility. Lack of visibility can keep young innovators in the background for so long. We've been working on so many innovative projects, but if we don't have people who are seeing the work we are doing, we would definitely not have the right donor or fund that come and promotes the work we are doing as young people. For me, I believe visibility is key to propel the work we do, to take it a step further. And then it helps you also tell your story better, to inspire other young people to tag along the whole climate action. So for me, these are the pointers, and these are how I see solutions to some of these challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is wonderful. I really believe that dear elders, experts, dear elders, experts provide mentorship to young leaders, young innovators. We really need to learn from you. So from everyone's perspective, I would like to ask one question that has to be replied in only 1 minute. What do you think, dear young entrepreneurs who have already started to step into the climate space, what do you think is the advice would you give to young other entrepreneurs who are in this room or who are elsewhere, who are aiming to navigate in this climate complexities business? It's complex. They have a lot of complexities. And young people or aspiring young entrepreneurs, they really want to make impact in their communities. What would be the advice?
Thank you very much. My advice to young people who are coming to the climate world, I said, look within your environment. Look for solutions that are affecting within your community. Don't look for the solution outside. Look for the solution that are problem within your reach. Because if you solve that problem, then you are getting a one step ahead, and be resilient. Because in Africa, our continent, supporting startup entrepreneurs has been a challenge. In fact, funding do come, they do ask you for 5-year experiences, 3 years. The funding are not flexible. African young entrepreneurs cannot tap into the funding opportunity because they are not flexible. They have a criteria set that are not flexible for young coming entrepreneurs. And some of we don't have patent rights. The moment you take your innovation outside the world, just one day, somebody just come in the next 2 months, you see it in the market, mass production is being done, they kill your dream. So that is actually affecting we the young coming entrepreneur, but be resilient. As for us, as I'm here, we are doing climate smart integrated agriculture. We develop a AI system technology that you use just a call device to call a water to irrigate your farm. We have developed a sensor device with an incubator. When the incubator is the moment it detects problem, it call you directly at your home with your mobile device and tell you, yes, this incubator has problems. If you move from this point, we can switch it off. So that is what we need to do in Africa. The problem that affects Africa should be solved by Africa. Let's don't wait for other people to see our problem as a problem. Let's see it and we'll solve it together.
As an environmentalist, I would say that if any young person wants to step out there to start a business, look within the environmental space. There are so many problems here that you can solve with your innovative ideas. And I always say that don't let profits be the center of any idea or any innovation you bring about. Let the environment be the center of it so that the solution you create today is sustainable and will not also have adverse impact on the environment and then also on our lives as well. So that's all I'll say. Center the environment. And one last thing, please take advantage of tech. I took advantage of tech to be able to design the layout of my farm. so that I can communicate with the farm hands and then the workers on the field, because they wouldn't understand all the English I'll speak. It's just how they will see it. I took advantage of the JA scholarship program, which taught me a bit about Google project management. I leveraged that to design the layout of our farm. And that is what I used to communicate. It was very, very simple. So I want us to also take advantage of tech. It's not any wild tech. Me, I don't do AI and those things, but the simple tech knowledge that you can get and build your capacity in, please take advantage of it and use that to produce efficient and effective solutions to address the crisis we are facing at hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Donc, mes amis francophones, la question est la suivante. Donc, quel conseil voudriez-vous donner aux jeunes entrepreneurs pour choisir le vert, en fait, pour choisir de faire l'entrepreneuriat vert? Et comment comprendre aussi la complexité du changement climatique? Bon, beaucoup des abréviations, beaucoup des termes.
En fait, l'entrepreneuriat, c'est la meilleure des choses à faire dans la vie. Et je n'ai jamais vu de millionnaires salariés. Il n'y a que de millionnaires entrepreneurs. Il y a beaucoup d'exemples ici en Afrique que nous pouvons prendre. Alors, je choisis le vert parce que le monde actuel, sans le vert, nous ne sommes rien. Si nous sommes là, c'est parce que nous voulons maintenir le climat à 1 degré, alors que ça ne puisse pas dépasser cela. Alors, tout ce que nous sommes en train de faire ici, c'est pour que demain, nous puissions vivre dans un monde où il fait beau vivre. Alors, pour cela, je continue et je continuerai toujours à sensibiliser et à motiver les jeunes à pouvoir emboîter le pas de l'entrepreneuriat. Moi, je n'ai jamais été salarié et je n'ai jamais envié un salarié. Je vis grâce à l'entrepreneuriat et je fais mes projets depuis que je finis l'université jusqu'à ce jour et je m'en sors très bien. Et je pense que je peux toutefois continuer à motiver encore la jeunesse et à comprendre les questions climat. Les questions climat, ce n'est pas venir s'asseoir ici, dialoguer, parler, mais c'est de pouvoir aller sur le terrain. Même les gens qui sont dans le ministère, la majorité ne vont pas sur le terrain pour palper ce qui se passe réellement dans le milieu périurbain. Alors, on continue à motiver les jeunes et on continue à motiver, que ce soit les gens qui restent au bureau, à aller aussi sur le terrain pour voir ce qui se passe et de pouvoir faire des rapports concrets sur ce qui se passe réellement sur le terrain et non c'est sur ce qu'ils voient dans la télévision, sur ce qu'ils entendent les gens rapporter. Nous sommes des exemples palpables pour pouvoir dire réellement ce qui se passe, réellement c'est quoi les changements climatiques. Merci.
Thank you. So she's just say that entrepreneurship is the best way to make money, and she mentioned that she never been employed and she always believed in entrepreneurship, and she's making her way in it. And choosing green is simply because you are choosing the sustainable way, because if you are not like taking into consideration the aspect of the environment and saving our future, like the market is moving and shifting to the green. So to be able to have a sustainable business, you have to shift to the green. She mentioned the last point that we need also to listen to what's happening in the real life, because she saw in Africa that we are separated a bit from our life, even our officials, but also our entrepreneurs. We're always seeing our context from the television maybe, or from what others said about it. But we are not actually listening to or just monitoring and palpating the real context of our working or business environment in Africa.
Ok, bon, ce que
It
je
was
vais...
really inspiring in French. I don't know if I get you feel that, but it was really...
Ce que je vais dire ne va pas sortir du contexte de ce que mes collègues ont déjà dit. Il est très important de prendre en compte le contexte local. C'est vraiment très important pour pouvoir proposer des solutions qui correspondent vraiment aux réalités du terrain. Il est également Lorsque je prends toujours dans ce sens, c'est ce que nous faisons au sein de la Coordination nationale des jeunes pour l'environnement et le climat, où avec les communautés locales, nous concevons des solutions énergétiques pour leur permettre d'être plus résilients aux impacts du changement climatique. Lorsque nous savons que le bois est le principal source d'énergie dans les zones rurales, par exemple. Également, il est très important qu'en tant qu'entrepreneurs verts, nous-mêmes nous ayons un bon comportement. On ne peut pas dire qu'on est entrepreneur vert et et par exemple, boire de l'eau et jeter un sachet par terre, ne pas être respectueux de l'environnement, c'est vraiment très important parce qu'il en va de la crédibilité même de ce que nous proposons. Parce que nous ne pouvons pas chanter partout et dire aux gens d'avoir un comportement responsable, consommer nos produits parce que nous respectons l'environnement. Lorsque nous-mêmes, en tant que personnes, dans notre vie courante, nous ne faisons pas des actes qui respectent l'environnement. Donc, c'est ce que je voulais dire pour ajouter à tout ce que mes collègues ont déjà dit. Merci bien.
That's great. So she said that she's okay with the thing that we should like prioritize the climate context or the local context like in doing our business, but we also should think about a bigger scale, either on the national or even like more to expand it, to make it like on a bigger scale, to be able to catch maybe more interest, more fund, more money, or to do something that is actually doable. She said about like we need first to change ourselves, that the change started from us, to able to change the business and change the community. So if we as a persons are not like behaving in a green way, in a way that's save the planet and saves our environment, we cannot demand and I'll use the word in French, we can not like sing that like climate and stuff to people, and then we are not doing that ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With all being said, this is Africa, and Africa is our business. Let us create, innovate the green world we want. Thank you for having us.
Inspiring.
Thank you very much. That was a brilliant session and an amazing, yes. Unfortunately, Joshua had to leave and I have to stand in his stead. But fortunately for me, I have to stand in his stead. We have the regional director in our midst, Miss Hauna, beautifully cladded in her green, symbolizing her interest in climate action. Yes. So can we have a photo with the panelists and the moderator? We humbly call Madam Angela to join this very one. Hello, Madam Angela. This was going to be a nerve-wracking one until Her Excellency just smiled. Madam Angela just also smiled. And Ms. Hauna just also smiled at me. So I believe it's going to calm my nerves. Okay. So empower policy, negotiate change, and finance a green future. In each decision lies the power to shape a sustainable future. And that is the reason for our next dialogue. And the topics for the panel is effective strategies for policy, influence, and negotiations, exploring avenues for green financing, and the last, collaborations for sustainable development. Joining me to do that is Celestine Musavi, one of our own delegates from Kenya, who would be here to introduce the panelists. Come on, let's give it up for her. Let's make it more resounding. We are the youth. Let's make it more energetic. I love that. I love that. You're welcome. Okay.
So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. My name is Celestine Musavi and I'm from Kenya. The topic that we'll be tackling today is on policy influence, negotiations, and green financing. At this time, I would like to welcome our panelists so that we can begin our discussion. The first one will be Emanuela Duakatu. She is a climate activist, the president of AFRIWOCC Southern Sudan chapter. Welcome, Emanuela. The second one will be Cedric Mahutonji. He is a PhD student on waste management. He is a young mayor of Kovi City in Benin. Welcome, Cedric. The third one is Ida Brand. Ida is the Vice President of Environmental and Sustainability Commission of the National Youth Council of Ivory Coast. Welcome, Ida. We had a fourth panelist, but the time was not allowing her to stay longer. So we will begin our conversation, and I will go straight to the first question. Emanuela, allow me to begin with you. Oh, I can sit down. Okay. Okay. All right then. I will begin by asking you a question. Can you share examples of Hello? Okay. Emanuela, can you share examples of collaborative efforts between youth organizations and the government bodies that have resulted into meaningful policy changes or have resulted into initiatives in the climate sector in your country?
Thank you very much. I will not reintroduce myself because of time. So I'll start by highlighting that South Sudanese young people have now, more than before, demonstrated the willingness, passion, and capacity towards influencing climate change related issues, driving solutions, both innovation and also driving advocacy towards ensuring that the challenges are tackled while also engaging their fellow young people at the grassroots level. So considering that in South Sudan, besides conflict, climate change has also been one of the biggest cause of displacement of people from their residence, destruction of properties, destruction of health services, education, agricultural activities, including the economy. So after seeing all these challenges, the young people in South Sudan took upon themselves to advocate and to engage other young people to train them on climate mitigation and adaptation and ensure that they are part and parcel of all climate change programs. So apart from the national program of action that South Sudan has, including the nationally determined contribution for South Sudan and the other policies that are tackling climate change, young people in South Sudan have also ensured that they integrate climate change into all relevant policies within the country. We have a number of policies that have been developed with the inclusion of young people and to make sure that there's integration of climate change in each. So we have reproductive health policy that tackles reproductive health issues. And you know, when it comes to climate change, women are also affected. You can't talk of having hospitals in a flooded area. So how are they going to be supported? So within the development of the reproductive health policy, young people ensure that there is integration of climate change. We have family planning policy. Women every day in cultures, their men will force them to continuously give birth because we believe in many children, but they do not actually take on the implication of a woman having lots of children. So how can these services reach women in climatic change, in climatic shocks conditions? So in these policies, young people ensured climate change is integrated. We also went further to the youth development policy that ensures that it governs all youth-related activities and matters within the country, whereby as well climate change has also been integrated. So now young people in South Sudan tend to pick up the climate change agenda and programs passionately and prioritize it, as they are the main people who are affected when it comes to climatic change shocks. And talking about initiatives, young people themselves, as I said, they have engaged at the grassroots level to train their fellow young people to ensure that they adapt to climate changes. They know how to mitigate climate changes. The only problem that we might be facing is that we do not have the meteorological stations to ensure that at least we can know what is going to happen in the nearest future to do the early warning to our young people. So that is the only challenge that we're facing at the moment, but the ministries, including other partners, in even the young people themselves, are trying to build it up to ensure we have it as a national-wide and generated database to know how many people are affected by climate change and how can we solve those issues.
Those are really great points. And young people in your country are doing amazing things. I hope the government can be able to take that up and support you. So, Cedric, I think it's an opportunity for you to also let us know what it is that you are doing in your country.
C'est aussi une opportunité pour nous dire ce qui se passe chez vous dans ce contexte.
Okay, merci beaucoup pour cette opportunité que vous m'accordez d'échanger avec mes pairs ici. Je suis Agbesima Otoni Cédric, comme ils l'ont dit. Je suis jeune maire de la commune de Kovel. Je suis un student, un doctorant en gestion des déchets agricoles pour la production de charbon écologique, pour la cuisson propre et aussi pour les emballages biodégradables. Alors, la jeunesse est le vivier de toute nation et l'implication de la jeunesse dans l'influence politique n'est plus à démontrer. Un peu partout, comme ma collègue vient de notifier aussi chez nous, la jeunesse est beaucoup plus impliquée dans l'élaboration des NDC et suite à plusieurs tentatives de lobbying, de plaidoyer. De façon plus concrète, chez nous, ce que nous avions fait va au-delà de l'aspect environnemental. Il faut avouer que dans notre communauté, il y a un document, pour toute commune, il y a un document que nous appelons souvent le programme de développement communal, PDC. Et dans ce programme, en réalité, c'est la vie de la communauté, de la commune qui est définie sur une période donnée et communément sur 5 ans. Et donc, chez nous, nous avions eu par le passé pas plusieurs moyens d'essayer d'approcher l'autorité afin de pouvoir donner notre voix, ce qui a été plusieurs fois bafoué. Mais nous nous sommes organisés en mouvement de jeunes et à travers cette organisation où nos impacts sur le terrain ont commencé par porter, à donner de la voix, l'autorité s'est vue l'obligation de nous inviter à la table d'élaboration, ce qui a fait que nous avions été nommés en tant que jeunes porte-parole des jeunes dans le comité d'élaboration de ce document stratégique. Et ce document stratégique a pris 8 mois où nous avions été sur le terrain et interviewer nos pairs par rapport à la gestion de la commune, par rapport aux différents projets qui sont nécessaires pour eux. Et donc, le résumé de cette enquête nous a permis d'aller proposer des projets tangibles dans ce document de développement communal. Et notre angle, notre background en environnement nous a permis de faire des propositions sur des projets liés à la transition énergétique, tout bien évidemment pour protéger l'environnement. Nous a permis aussi de faire insérer dans ce programme l'instauration, l'obligation de faire des études environnementales, des études d'impact environnemental avant l'érigement, avant l'installation d'une infrastructure communautaire. Et donc, voilà, de façon ramassée, ce que nous faisons, ce que la jeunesse de ma communauté fait en termes d'influence des politiques et actions communautaires. Merci.
Okay. You've been doing so much. He's really grateful to be to exchange here with those young leaders. He's a student doctoral student in waste management, and I was a long title, but I catch the waste management. He's also seeing that there is an increasing mobility of youth in NDCs and PNA also adaptation national plans, ANP, I guess, ANP, PNA en français, ANP. Like from their context, he mentioned that they have like a program called PCD, program. It's more like like yeah, development, a community development program, but I think communities is more like in a context of the local authorities, isn't it? So it's like a plan of action, time-bounded plan of action, and they get in touch with the authorities and they mobilize the youth there, and the authorities saw the obligation to talk to them and to include their voices in it, like take them into consideration, and also in managing like and doing the local policies and stuff. Their background on climate change had led them also to be able to put environmental aspects in that project, and also to like endorse some environmental studies prior to implement any project to have this environmental aspect. So I think that's the most important point that you talked about. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that translation. On to our next question. I will begin with you, Aida. On green financing, can you share examples of successful projects that have utilized a combination of both public and private financing to bring into life climate projects in your country? Sorry?
Well,
yeah, then let her answer.
Okay, let me steal my neighbor's question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So in South Sudan, let me start with a little history. I believe all of you know the International Conference on Population and Development that took place in Nairobi in 2019. Prior to that conference, South Sudanese young people sat down and came up with items that they would have wanted to be committed by the government in the in the ICPD summit, that afterwards the government will implement, that will sustain the young people in South Sudan. So among them was the Youth Enterprise Fund, that after the commitments were made, through the approval from our first vice president, young people started advocating for it, because most times our government, when they make commitments, they tend to relax, they sit back until when young people step up and say, okay, you said this, now you need to implement it. So young people tend to advocate to ensure it is implemented until this year, where it was launched, the Youth Enterprise Fund being functioning. And then it's aimed at ensuring that young people have access to capital to start up businesses, be it agriculture or any other kind of business, to sustain them and ensure that at least they have something to economically empower themselves. But then it doesn't just end there. Yes, they will be given a fund by the government, and that is done in partnership with the Stanbic Bank, that is the private sector, Stanbic Bank, and the government, which is the Ministry of Youth, including with the UN agency, that is UN Women. So it has registered a number of success where young people bring in their ideas, their business ideas. They can either come in groups or they can either come in person, as long as the idea will generate future profits and also expand into a more sustainable program. However, as I said, it doesn't just end there. Yes, they will be given the funds to, let's say, go do agriculture. And then what next? Are there going to be markets for those products that are going to be generated? Are there going to be infrastructure that will lead them to get those products and take them to the market? So some of these problems are solvable by the government themselves, and others are cross borders. If we talk of conflicts and say security and peace, yes, they can be solved by our own government and say they need to prioritize on having peace and security within the country, so that at least we can practice agriculture in a safe environment and take them to the markets in a safe environment. However, when you talk of challenges concerning climate change, we are in the least developed countries. And in Africa, we're around 33 countries. And how many countries are in Africa? There are like 54. Only 21 countries are the ones that are developing. And we cannot say that, and we cannot really be comfortable and say we are among the least developed countries. We have been considered this since forever. It is high time that we really need to develop and go to the next stage. And most of these issues are not our own, they are not generated by ourselves, because first of all, we do not have large emissions that could lead to the rising of sea levels, bring flooding, wash away our farms. So yes, our government will give us the funds, but how about the climate mitigation and adaptation? Our properties have been damaged and we cannot really revive them. Yes, we are done with our conflict. We are trying to develop, but some other issues that are not generated by us are taking us to round zero. So there are some other steps that really are cross-border and need the developed countries to really put much efforts, ensure they finance our loss and damage, finance our mitigation and adaptation, so that even if we fund our young people to do agriculture, to do entrepreneurship, it can bring sustainability. It can make them go to the global markets. They start with the African free trade areas as they break to the global markets for sustainability of our countries and Africa. Thank you.
That's a good points. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Ida, I don't know if you can take this question, but I will ask you and you will let us know if you're able to. On sustainability, because this is your area. So what is the role, in your perspective, what is the role of mentorship and knowledge exchange in ensuring successful collaborations between youth-led organizations and established organizations?
Donc, ma question à vous, Aïda, c'est à propos de
I understand.
You
Thank
understand.
you. So thank you, Celestine. There is a little bit confusion because I'm not financing, but I would like to take part also for the first question. I will try to my best in English because to be more inclusive. So I'm the Vice President of the Commission, Environmental and Sustainability Commission of the National Youth Council of Ivory Coast. So we do a lot of policy influence in, as a vice president, we do a lot of recommendations for the Ministry of the Youth and the Professional Insertion and Civic. So we have the opportunity to elaborate a document in plastic pollution in Ivory Coast because we have a lot. And we have also the AFCON, which is coming at the beginning of the year. So we have this opportunity also to take part of the weekly meeting cabinets of the ministry. So based on our documents and our work, we have the opportunity to explain and give the needs of the youth about formation and education about pollution, because we will have a lot of youth volunteer during the AFCON, sorry, and it was really important for us to explain to the government where are the problems about limit of education about pollution plastic. We have also the opportunity during the COP15, it was against desertification. So during this COP conference, we have the CNGC, so the National Youth Council, who did an advocacy on how we can allow youth people to have accessibility of the land, to be more conscious of this opportunity of our environment, because we have a lot of rural exodus. So after that, the National Youth Council elaborate a document to create a urgent policy to allow the accessibility of the youth for the earth. So we have also the pollution plastic, who allow us to understand how the problem of education is really important in our country, especially in developing countries, because we need to change componental values about how we will use the plastic, the consumption, the elaboration and production. And also about the green financing, actually, I have a little bit reflection about the carbon neutrality. I think in the long term, we will have some big global treaty about decarbonization. And I think our country needs to understand right now that it's important to give some, how we say, incitative measures to allow companies to produce and develop innovation with zero carbon neutrality. And I think the future is the youth, and the youth can be innovate and can help us to understand what it means. And to come back to collaborative, I think that collaborating and mentorship can help us to create a synergy, reflection, because youth, we are not always, we don't have always the capacity of experts. So we need still experts, we need senior people to bring us to understand what is the meaning of the stakes. And with our innovation, we can manage to create a collaboration together. So I think the youth, it's un levier and can elevate the reflection of the stake of pollution, of climate change, actually. I hope it will be understandable.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aida. So for our final question, it is the same question that all of us will answer. What role do you see youth can play in negotiations and policy making in the context of climate action? What role can youth play in ensuring that the negotiations and policies in the climate section happen?
Dans le contexte climatique, quel rôle de la jeunesse voyez-vous dans le cadre des négociations et les politiques climatiques?
You have 1 minute each.
Ok, merci beaucoup. De façon fondamentale, ce que la jeunesse peut faire dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des politiques pour le financement, c'est d'influencer, mais pas influencer à travers les discours, mais proposer des initiatives, des solutions smart pour que cela soit pris en compte dans l'élaboration de ces documents. Et donc déjà, comme proposition, moi je dis il faut essayer déjà dans la politique de financement, essayer de démystifier l'accès au financement par les organisations de la jeunesse. Il faut exonérer du moins les organisations de la jeunesse ou des initiatives vertes pour ce qui concerne les tasses et autres. Il faut bien évidemment que nous initions, que nos États initient des réformes structurelles pour pouvoir faciliter en réalité l'instauration des banques vertes, afin d'accompagner les initiatives vertes. Au-delà de ça, il faudrait que dans la politique nationale, nos États essaient d'intégrer l'éducation, de revoir la réforme. Il faut des réformes au niveau du système éducatif pour aller vers une éducation financière verte. Pour aller vers une éducation financière verte, cela va permettre à ce que du bas âge, nous puissions avoir ces valeurs liées à la protection de l'environnement et aussi à comment mettre de l'argent de côté pour pouvoir financer nos petits projets et autres. Donc, j'en ai beaucoup, mais pour ne pas abuser du temps, je vais m'arrêter là.
He just mentioned 3 points. That the first is it's the responsibility of youth to capacitate themselves to be able to take that responsibility. Reforms should be done on all levels, like from the countryside to engage youth on all levels. Beyond all of that, we need to integrate education, climate, and green finance to make sure that we are raising a generation that is aware of all of those questions and that can speak the same language when it comes to climate. And we are sure that when they are holding positions and they are working together, they will be having this consideration working for their countries and for the world.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, for young people to have a role to negotiate, they first need to be put at the forefront of negotiation processes rather than at the background. Because most times in many processes, young people are just consulted after everything is already designed and engaged to implement. But this time we really need for us to be at the table of negotiation, not just consulting us and taking our voices there, but putting us there to negotiate for our own issues. If you talk of climate change, how many people have been impacted most? They are us, the young people. If it's about businesses, about economy, health, education, most of the people who are affected are us, young people, not to talk about the women and children. So for us really to have that role and to play it meaningfully, we need to be put at the forefront of those negotiation processes and not just being told what to do, and let us practice the potential that we have to influence changes, to bring about solutions that will that will solve the already existing problems and ensure that at least they are supported. Not that, okay, we bring out a solution and then you put it aside and say we have other priorities. Those solutions that young people bring to also be prioritized and be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aida.
So I have 1 minute, so I will continue in French.
That's smart.
Yeah. Donc, dans un premier temps, je suis totalement d'accord avec ce qui a été dit par ma collègue juste à côté. Mais avant de mettre en avant ces jeunes-là, je pense qu'il faut outiller et capaciter en fait ces jeunes-là à être conscients en fait des enjeux climatiques et aussi à avoir un certain leadership pour pouvoir prendre leur place à la table des décideurs. Il faut aussi notamment qu'en termes de gouvernance, les États soient capables de prendre le pied et de créer des mesures incitatives positives pour que les entreprises développées par des entrepreneurs jeunes puissent favoriser dans le développement économique. Aussi taxer un peu les grands groupes multinationaux qui sont encore dans le fossile ou les entreprises qui ne pensent pas, dès la conception de leur entreprise, de leur business plan, notamment sur tout ce qui est transition écologique et notamment l'éducation. Je pense que c'est la première chose. Il y a une sensibilisation à faire au niveau du grand public, mais au niveau aussi éducationnel. Donc, je pense que si on veut pouvoir permettre de capaciter les jeunes à prendre la parole et à avoir un leadership et à être impliqués dans les processus de réflexion, dans un premier temps, c'est de changer les normes comportementales au niveau de l'éducation. Merci.
So that, thank you. She agrees with the colleagues about that perspective of initiating and capacitating youth on the climate context, and having like leadership programs like on the national level to give the needed skills and expertise that youth need to have, like to be able to lead, because like the excuse that our seniors always saying that you guys lack experience and expertise, so give us the chance to have these skills and experience. And to also about governance, to create a more attractive business models back home to attract more entrepreneurship from youth, and not just put all the barriers in front of them and ask them to be innovative and to lead in that aspect. And she thinks also that education and advocacy are keen to, and we need to prepare the current generation and the future generation to take the lead. I think that was it.
Thank you very much, all of you, for the time that you've made to be part of this panel and for the great contribution that you've made. Thank you so much.
I think I was with you in the panel, so I also might need a final word to say.
Yeah.
I think that we always mentioning that we need space for youth, but I'm just want this to be clear. To give space to younger generation doesn't mean to dismiss our seniors or our people of expertise. We are a generation of inclusivity. So like to build a more sustainable, we need the expertise, we need the perspective of youth. Like to put youth or to have youth at the table, we don't have to dismiss the older ones, but just maybe add more chairs, and everyone can have their says like on the table. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Celestine and the panel. We're going to have a photo. Yes. Okay, we'll take the last one. We'll ask Dr. Henry to join. Sorry, Madam Angela and Ms. Haona, you'd have to come back for this one. My apologies. Yeah, for the photo. Yeah. Please do not leave. Do not leave. We are about to have the last phase of the session. And we would all take a group photo after that. So kindly do not leave. Let's give it up for them. This was an amazing one. Very insightful conversation around green financing. It looks like clearly the energy is down. I'm seeing a very powerful call to action here. So let's do this short exercise as an icebreaker. I say climate action, and you say now, okay? Just to warm up the place. Climate action, climate action, climate action. The energy is still dwindling. Climate action, climate action. Great, I love this energy. And in the same spirit, we are going to welcome Her Excellency Samira Baumia for the address. Exactly. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Good evening to you all. I know it's been a long day for a lot of us, so I'll make this brief. I came with my speech, but as I expected, I've been inspired by what I heard today. I feel like a proud mother, co-mother. We know how this started. It was our conversations at the Africa Climate Week Summit in Kenya, where we spoke to young people, and they reminded us that we needed more of their voices on this AFRIWOCC journey. And I'm grateful to my dear sister, the UNDP Africa Director, Ahuna. She made this happen. Let's give her a huge round of applause, because she made a decision on the spot to support us to bring 100 young people from across the continent to speak to the issues that affect us. So God bless you. Thank you so much for the good work you're doing. And we've really been vindicated. Our decision, as we were reminded, we are not giving anybody anything. It is a right that the young people have, and rightly so. We've seen and heard very brilliant submissions about how, you know, we need to build capacity. We can't just say do something when we haven't built capacity. We need to find funding which allows for youth participation. People can say we need to see experience when we are talking about people who don't need to have experience at that point in time. So the funding needs to align with youth innovation. And the youth themselves who are saying they need to be resilient, because it's never an easy journey. It takes a lot, and you should be ready to stay the course. Of course, innovation and technology, leveraging technology is also important, because then you don't reinvent the wheel. You cut, you know, the corners and get to what you need to do. And we also looked, of course, at local solutions for our environmental challenges. And as we say at AFRIWOCC, we want to highlight indigenous solutions in our work. How do we go back to basics? What has worked in the past? What has worked in other areas? How do we replicate it across the continent? Or how do we adapt it for the continent? And of course, government should drive policy as well, because it's the policy that's sort of the platform that can carry our young people. So that's important. The policy should drive youth participation. And of course, the youth voices should be at the table when that is done. And there should be incentives also provided in that policy for youth activities as well as youth innovation. And we want more young people at the forefront. And I was watching the proceedings and I thought we ourselves have done some adaptation and mitigation. We had an impromptu translator. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause. He came as a moderator and he ended up being a translator. And of course, Daniel, who also filled in as the MC. But I thank you all so much. It's been an incredible journey. It's a privilege for me to host you together with the UNDP on this journey. But it is a journey, as I said, and the destination is an Africa that is sustainable, that is prosperous, that is inclusive, and with young people at the forefront. And I thank you for being part of building the Africa that we all want. God bless you.
Let's make it better. Let's make it better. That was a powerful one by the second lady of Ghana. We'll have the next voice, one who puts much value on youth voices, to have our closing remarks, Ms. Hauna. Thank you so much.
So this is the night for discarding official statements or speeches. It's not a space for speeches. So let me just say thank you, Daniel. Where's Daniel again? Yes, for bringing the energy back in the room. Actually, when I walked in, second lady, I felt the energy. I felt I was in a different space with all these young brains and bloods, and it felt different. And you know, our moderator of the last but one panel, where is she? She said, this is Africa, and Africa is our business. Africa is your business. If Africa is not your business, who else should make Africa their business, right? It's so true. Everyone in this room who is considering themselves African, you have to make Africa your business, because if you don't, nobody will. And what you have demonstrated there, and I asked myself that question at a certain stage in my life. If I don't make Africa my business, who will? And that's why I'm where I am today. But let me ask a question. How many of you in the audience, young people, if you consider yourself young, is under the age of 27? If you're below 27, raise your hand. Okay. Quite a few of you. If you're 27, raise your hand. Right. 2 of you. Okay. So just before I turned 27, someone said to me that your creativity peaks at 27. In other words, if you have not achieved what makes you unique, like your unique contribution in terms of creativity by the age of 27, it's not likely that you're going to get there. So if you're above 27, sorry. If you haven't gotten there yet. But 27 seems to be the magic age. And some of you have gone there before 27. Some of you have gone there after 27. Some are late bloomers, right? So there's still hope there for those who are over 27 and still hoping to achieve. But really keep your eyes on this age, this magic number 27. And I actually, when I looked at it against my own life, I could attest to it. that when I felt that I had done something at age 27 that was on the cutting edge at that age of doing something to the world, it was at 27. It doesn't mean that I don't believe I can continue to influence, but think about that magic age, 27, and ask yourself, what do I want to be when I'm 27? And the other thing I wanted to say to you, we have a tendency, of course, to look at the older population, older generation as useless and dishonest and not supportive. But who do we have in this room who has been consistent in supporting young women and young men? Madam Samira. I think it is important to celebrate that. You know, from the time I met her and sat with her, I saw something inside that just breathed this air of commitment to this generation. And today is an illustration of that commitment. So as I look at your stories, listen to your stories today, three things occurred to me in terms of what has to be behind, what has to drive this vision and journey. One is conviction. You must believe in something. You must have this sense of purpose. And conviction is a thing born out of the spirit. It's personal. You have to get to a point where you sit with yourself and whatever it is that is inside and say, I want to do this. I was born for this. Whatever this is, there has to be something that comes from deep down that says, this is my purpose. This is the reason why I am. Once you have the conviction, the next thing that you need is confidence. And we saw a lot of confidence demonstrated here today. None of you who spoke today spoke with any piece of paper. It's because you're speaking from here, from your gut. There's some from your conviction, something you believe in, something you have experienced. So hang on to your conviction because it breeds confidence. If you believe, it's unshakable, it's difficult. That conviction is difficult for people to shake you if you believe. It's difficult for people, even circumstance will have a hard time derailing you. So ask yourself today, what is my conviction? What's my purpose? And if you have it, my experience is that your confidence will be unmatched. Even the shyest person in the room will suddenly find themselves speaking with authority. When you have conviction, you speak with authority about your trade. But make no mistake, confidence doesn't mean arrogance. And I liked what one of you said about, we still have a lot to learn. We still must listen to those who have walked the path before us. You find that in confidence, you learn humility. Because through your confidence, you start to see the next thing that I'm going to say, commitment. You start to see what it means to be committed. And commitment means learning from others, opening up your mind and your heart to pick up new ideas, learning humility, knowing that what you know is not enough. You need to know more. And no matter how brilliant you are, you don't know it all. Commitment to learn, commitment to stay the course, commitment to recognize others and bring them into your space. Commitment to support others. I can't remember who it was now. One of you said, I discovered that mentorship was so important. Our young lady from Ghana. And I said, I want to mentor others because I found out that it is fundamental to the growth that we need. Commitment to serve others, even in your own service. And then the last thing I think that is important to have, particularly as we're addressing the issue of climate, you have to be outraged. We don't have time anymore for nice words. You have to demand accountability. And demanding accountability means you get outraged. When you don't see it, when you don't see transparency, when you don't see accountability, you get outraged. Remember, I'm saying outraged, not angry. I make a difference between the two. When you're outraged, you still have a lot of energy to have action. When you're angry, it can tank you. It's an emotion that can overtake you and paralyze you. But outrage can empower you to be bold and to speak truth to power. We need today outrage as part of your journey because we have way too many people who are eating from the hands of Africa. This continent is divinely endowed. It needn't be the continent on its knees begging for bread. But it is today because of misplaced governance, because of diminished value on African lives. When you see your contemporaries leaving their homes because they have zero opportunity to realize their dreams and taking risks that were unimaginable, to cross the Atlantic, getting drowned, getting repelled, getting tortured, getting raped. When you see that, be outraged. And your outrage should take you to the doors of the United Nations, the African Union, your governments, demanding that Africa's resources must first and foremost work for Africa's young people. You have to know what you have in each of your countries. That's the beginning of the outrage. If you're from Guinea, you have to know what are those resources that could have gone into my development, but it's been extracted and taken out. If you're from DRC, you ask the same question. You mobilize, you get together, you build bridges, and you demand from us to do better. Because the world that we're facing today with climate change is going to make life a lot tougher for many young people of this generation. Lastly, let's learn the language. You know, my generation, we missed the boat. And now I sit here and I'm thinking, how do we integrate this continent if we can't even speak the same language, if we can't understand each other? And your generation could be the first generation that takes us to a place where if you're from Nigeria, you go across the border and you go to Benin, you're Anglophone, but you can speak French, and vice versa. I was really impressed with the way we had both Anglophone and Francophone on the stage here. We need to give voice to all language groups. I was missing Lusophone. I don't know if there was someone, but we have to make sure that every corner of this continent is at the table and not excluded because their language is not on the menu. And one way to do that is for your generation to start teaching yourselves the languages that you don't know that are spoken on the continent. You can do it because today you have Duolingo. You don't even have to pay for it. You can actually learn as you go. You need to be able to get into a country and speak a few words at least. Doors will open. We cannot integrate this continent, whether it's in terms of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and you crossing borders, or in terms of the creatives, the creative sector, the service sector, the commodity sector. If you're going to own Africa, this is Africa, and Africa is my business. If you're going to make Africa your business, go now and start learning those languages. Right? From our side, I can commit to you that UNDP will continue to create opportunities for your voice to be heard in important places, including in VIP places. We're going to insist that this voice is not marginal. It's not on the side of, as one of you said, and we need ideas from you on this. How do you come into the room where these decisions are made? And I can tell you one thing that's missing today is inspiration. You know, the world is so depressed. Even the leaders are depressed. And I can tell you the only thing that gets them livened up is when they listen to young people. But guess what? Protocol always protects them from your presence. So we need to break protocol and start opening up spaces for intergenerational dialogue. And UNDP has started with the Youth Connect that we're going to have next week. We insisted that there must be space for intergenerational dialogue with at least 3 or 4 heads of states who will be there. Our leaders today need to hear from you because you will inspire them, you will motivate them, you will invite them into your world to understand it, to take a leaf from you, and to be motivated to do right by Africa and by the next generation, your generation. I'm committing with the second lady, my dear sister, that we will continue to farm out these spaces where global issues are being discussed so that the world will hear your solutions, because you have many of them. And I want to say here, the solutions that are cultivated here in Africa are good for Africa, but they're not only for Africa. And you have to now start seeing yourselves as world leaders as well, as innovators, entrepreneurs with solutions for the world. Because guess what? Africa will remain part of this world, and the world is getting smaller and smaller. And if we don't get it right in the rest of the world, this continent will be the loser. So we need to anchor your knowledge, your intelligence, your contribution in a global context, because the world needs what Africa has got in terms of solutions, in terms of ideas, in terms of knowledge, in terms of heart. There is heart missing in the world today. And I believe you guys have heart. You have solutions, you have intelligence, but you also have heart. We're not artificial. Artificial intelligence is going to dominate the world, but not Africa. Africa, human intelligence will remain the leading voice, the leading experience. We will use artificial intelligence for what it's worth, but it will not replace the heart, the beating rhythm and heart of this continent. So I want to invite all of you to think of yourselves as global leaders, not just leaders within Africa. And thank you for continuing to inspire us.
Wow. What a beautiful way to end this session. We takeaways, conviction, confidence, and commitment. I'm definitely going to leave by these three. Thank you so much for this insightful talk. We are very much inspired. Okay. Now I'm confident. Yeah. So we have an announcement. Are we all ready? Are we all ready? Are you excited? Great. Okay. So in the light of this great initiative, that has been a blessing to all 100 of us here. And of course, it's a good thing that we definitely want to see it progress. And for this reason, we want to announce the AFRIWOCC UNDP Network of Climate Activists. Let's all give it up for this one. The AFRIWOCC UNDP Network of Climate Activists. This is a new movement altogether. Let's all give it up for this one. I'm excited about this. Already, I know I'm on the front row of this thing. So let's all do this. Let's all take a commitment. Can we all stand? Now, this is an important part of the session. We're all going to take a pledge. We're all going to commit. So you gladly say after me, okay? Perhaps let's do it like we say in the national anthem with our hearts. Okay. So with a soothing voice, with so much passion, let's just repeat this. I commit to do. Sorry, let's retake it. I'm confident. I commit to an empowered youth climate activist in Africa as an AFRIWOCC and UNDP ambassador. I like the passion in the voice, so we're going to retake, okay? So I commit to an empowered youth climate activist in Africa as an AFRIWOCC UNDP ambassador. That was a heartfelt one. Give it up for yourself. Great. So we're not leaving. We're going to take the vote of thanks. Okay, can we all sit? Okay. So because of time, you take the vote of thanks. Would like to say a very big thank you to all of you gathered here. Gratitude resonates as we extend our heartfelt thanks to AFRIWOCC and UNDP for spearheading the impactful youth climate dialogue. Your visionary sponsorship, sending 100 youth delegates, youth climate advocates to Dubai for COP28, is a beacon of support for the global cause. Together, let's all amplify voices for a sustainable future. And thank you so much for your unwavering commitment to this cause. I'm grateful. Thank you. So we'll be having our photos. So we all don't leave. The very first photo will be, everyone will be in this photo, but for the very first, we would have Dr. Her Excellency, Ms. Hauna, and Ms. Angela for this particular photo.